Right, let us continue this. Is that a street light? Oops.
Yes, officer. As you see, it's in perfect working order.
Where did you get this?
It was brought to me to be altered.
We are not here to investigate the theft of city property.
He leans in so the pawnbroker doesn't hear him.
You have to admit it's rather clever what he's done with it.
How much for the street light?
700 real. A bargain, I dare say.
700 real is not a bargain.
A bargain? No, it's not. He's trying to sweet-talk you into buying trash.
Are you out of your mind? There's one just like that on every corner.
The light has undergone 3 transformations, and every transformation, large or small, has a price tag.
Right. What do you mean, transformations?
Well, there are the cost of removal and rewiring.
He throws you a look of weary patience.
The most important transformation is the light's placement among ordinary indoor fixtures, which has adjusted its morphological field.
Oh, it's
The light
morphological.
became suitable for use inside the home just a few days ago.
It's morphological field. You have 354. Alright. There's nothing else you need to know about the light. There's also these
The
speakers.
boomboxes on the shelf look well-loved and well-traveled. Chipped, dented, they stare at you with the unblinking eyes of their tape reels.
Stand on the tips of your toes to see
One
more.
especially catches your eye. Deep gold and amber plastic with a big old handle on top. A classic boombox that says Stereo 8 approved. This is you. Golden orange. A sunset suite.
What I really want to know is, could this device come handy in my police work?
If police work means playing tapes, sure, you can use it for that. Or any other time you'd need to play a tape.
Like a beach party. With sand and sun and seagulls dancing on the breeze.
Nice. Turn to Kim. Theoretically, I could bring it to a beach party.
Theoretically, yes. But we don't have time right now. It's generally murder investigation first, then beach party.
Okay, Kim, I'll just rock out with Roy then.
I don't like beaches. They accumulate too many photons. It's always chaos out there. But live your life, man. You can use it at a beach party if you want. It's the Harman Welsh W2, made in Vespa, designed in Seoul. Plays all reel-to-reel formats. 2mm, 8mm, 12mm. It's even got a little radio in there. It'll set you back 12 real.
Yeah, we don't have that kind of money right now. Right, Seoul. That's something else we've heard for the first time, I think, right? Everything in here. Right, so we pawned the commemorative pin. We do have a little bit of money now, and we collected a few bottles too. What's this? Wait. Oh, some Nosafed. I'll take it. Oh, has it stopped raining? Doesn't look like it's raining, but the sound is still there, so it's probably still raining. Closed for winter. Please use main entrance. Goods from the lorry haphazardly litter the surroundings. Also, the lighting just changed. A glossy magazine. Most able-bodied men. This issue has a top 10 list. Am I in it? Oh no, they're much hunkier than you. What? You shouldn't feel threatened by handsome men. Don't be silly. Jump Jams, a popular music mag. Magnesium. Frittte, sick. With 3T. See if we can't get that. That raincoat Kim was talking about. First, let's
The
have a
tear
look.
machine stands in the corner. A sign says, 1 bottle equals 10 cents.
Since what are bottles?
Your bottles clunk into the machine, and the money appears with a satisfying jingle. You're a richer man now.
And 1 real richer. A melancholy pop song plays on the radio. Hello, miss.
Welcome to Frittte. Feel free to look around or something. Everything is out on the shelves.
She returns to her magazine. Before we go on, what is Frittte?
I don't know. Frittte?
And what is Frittte?
A 7 to 11 grocery store.
7-Eleven, huh? Why is it written with 3
I
T's?
think they think that the extra T makes it funkier. It doesn't.
I like her attitude. She's just like, yeah, I'm just working here. Don't expect me to shill for some company. Let's proceed. I have some questions for you.
Okay. I'm not really supposed to be chatting to anyone, but
She puts down the magazine. Can you tell me anything about this reality we're in?
reality. You mean what reality? Economic reality or
Yes, tell me about the economic reality.
I don't really know anything. I mean, I'm 15.
15 is an excellent time to learn about the economic reality.
Yeah, that's why I'm working my arse off in Frittte. So I guess, like, that's economic.
What about the physical reality
I don't
then?
know. What about it?
Where are we?
We're in Frittte
No, I meant where are we on a larger scale?
as mankind or as a nation or
Like in the world.
we're in Revachol, like on the Insulindian Isola.
It's just testing your
That
knowledge.
wasn't very hard. We're in Frittte as mankind or
As
a
mankind.
nation in a good place. I mean, science is doing great, and this radio computer thing seems to be kind of big. I don't know. We're in Frittte
I wanna
as
know the
mankind
last one
or
too.
as a nation. We're in a
She rubs her face, thinking.
We're in a transition, you know, transitioning from monarchy to democracy, all that stuff.
She nods, then folds her magazine bag back. What time is it?
I don't know. Look at the clock. It's right behind you on the wall.
Oh, like 11:17.
The clock shows the time at 10:09. The hands seem to be still. It's apparent the clock doesn't work.
What is the revolution?
When ordinary people take over the government and demands democracy.
What about the one we had here in Revachol?
Yeah, it happened like 50 years ago or so. Sorry, I'm not very good at this. At history, I mean.
Not good at economics, not good at history. What are you good at? The coalition, what's that? Someone told me there is one. Maybe politics.
Our government? Or do you mean something else? Sorry, I really need to finish this article.
She taps the magazine on the counter. I won't bother you with this nonsense anymore.
Oh,
She seems happy to return to her reading. Can you tell me anything about the dead body?
I don't really know anything. I mean, I know it's there, but I haven't seen it, so
What do you think happened?
I don't know.
No need to worry. It's just standard procedure for us to ask around. If you hear anything, let us know, okay?
Okay.
She scratches her nose. I like that too. The lieutenant's voice is soothing and professional, making it clear that he's, if not disapproving of us, like questioning this random store clerk here, who's a child still at 15, he at least wants to put her at ease, right? Because he's like a somewhat functioning human being with a bit of empathy, and he's like, okay, she's not done anything wrong. She's just a kid working here. Let's not be too hard on her. How long has it been there?
I don't know, really long.
Did you know the man who died?
Not really.
Not really? Does it mean you knew him a little?
No. I didn't know him at all.
Thank you for your help.
Uh-huh.
She brushes a strand of hair off her face and tries to return to her magazine. Right, so in order to actually buy something, we need to click stuff, right? In the store.
You see several packaged raincoats fill a low shelf beneath a display of croissants and juice bottles. The raincoats are transparent, except for the big Frittte slogan on the back.
What's that?
What is what? It's a raincoat.
The girl leans over the counter to see what you're referring to.
If you want to buy one, then it's only 4 real.
Couldn't I steal this? I think I had it in my memory that you could also steal this, but maybe we need more motorics for that to even attempt it, right? I want to buy a
Here you go.
raincoat. +1 endurance. Frittte plastic raincoat. Part of Fritte's army. A transparent plastic raincoat with Frittte SIG written on the back. The package photo shows a group of happy Ravisholians dancing in the rain. Oh, that lowers our esprit de corps, but it's also it's quite the look, right? With the tie and other than that, just our chest hair. Do I want more esprit de corps? Or more endurance right now? I think I want more esprit de corps. I know one check for sure where I'll need endurance, but so it's good to have this, but not right now.
A small cabinet on the wall is filled with various medicine bottles, nasal sprays, and blister packs. They all bear the Saint Baptiste Pharmaceutics logo.
Just ask me if you need anything from Saint Baptiste. We don't stock prescription meds, but we do have Nosafed, Duramine, Magnesium, and Hypnogamma.
Who's Saint Baptiste?
Saint Baptiste, you know, the pharmaceuticals company.
She nods slowly at the cabinet.
Saint Baptiste Pharmaceuticals, the one that sells meds out of Saint Baptiste. That one. There.
She giving us shade? I hope so. What do these products do?
I don't know. Let's see. Nosafed is a nasal spray. Duramine is a really good painkiller. Magnesium is a dietary supplement. Hypnogamma is...
She stops.
I don't really know what Hypnogamma is. I guess it makes you feel less shit. It's recommended to use after lots of partying, studying, or exercising.
Can you be a little more specific?
No. Sorry. I'm not like a doctor or anything.
She chews her bubblegum absent-mindedly. So, Nosafed and Duramine are against physical damage, right? And Magnesium and Hypnogamma are against morale damage. We do have 4 out of 5 health on both fronts. And we do have 2 charges to heal each. So we could heal now, but it's not necessary. So I think the Duramine is just 3 charges of Nosafed, so to say, right? So this will give us 3 charges, this will give us 1 charge. So it's always cheaper to buy in bulk if you can afford it. What's 3 times 180? 540. Yeah, it's a bit cheaper. Also, generally, that's one of the effects of hardcore mode, right? Is that these healing items are more expensive. That's what it said at the beginning. So they're still affordable, but not cheap. Need a bit more money to get those. I don't think in my last playthrough I ever, like, bought a lot of them, though. You can find quite a few throughout the world.
A colourful display of cigarettes and alcohol bottles line the shop wall, inviting you closer. There, in that dark green glass, all in vain. The great flowing river of warmth, wine, alcohol, beer, alcohol, love, alcohol.
World of Ruby. I'm in heaven. I need it all so bad.
Sure. If you want something, I can get it for you. Just let me know and pay and stuff.
She adjusts her hat.
But I'm obliged to inform you that both alcohol and cigarettes damage your health. But I guess you already know that.
Don't ask, don't look, don't do anything here. Just go away. Get back to work.
Please tell me more about these products.
The Pale Age vodka is special, I guess. It's stored in pale for a couple of years, which makes it super expensive and super strong.
Pale, that's a new concept. We haven't heard that before. What is pale?
You know.
I'm uninterested in explaining it further.
Don't worry your pretty little head about it. Let's concentrate on what's important here.
Okay, what will consuming this stuff do to my body?
I mean, I already said it'd hurt you. I don't know what else they do.
She stares at you, unsure. Because, sure, you've never had any alcohol, I'm sure. Do you sell any under-the-counter vices?
No, Frittte only sells legal drugs, like the law says.
She fixes her hair underneath her cap. +1 physique, -1 morale. Right. I should be using those quite a bit, right? I want to raise my physique generally. But that's pretty expensive. Are these more expensive too? In the hardcore edition? They seem more expensive, I think. Potent Pilsner. Astra cigarettes. +1 intellect, -1 health. Yeah. So that's the alcohol and cigarettes. That's the healing items. We bought the raincoat.
To the left of some croissants and juice bottles, you see several packaged raincoats fill a low shelf. One is missing. The one you legally purchased.
Right. Nothing else in here except for this one bubble. Yellow roses, dozens of them. Tulips, too. Let's talk to this guy. Oh, I know who this is. The lorry driver.
to Ivershol.
Announces the rotund man. The remark isn't added to you, it's addressed to the lieutenant. And I've never been really sure whether I like that the game calls him racist lorry driver here, because it is a bit unsubtle, right? And I know there's often this debate about seemingly innocuous statements like this, like welcome to Revachol or welcome to the place you live in, welcome to Germany. If you say that to someone who looks or who you think looks like they don't belong or must be a guest or something, or also innocuous statements like, oh, you're Revacholian, like your English is really good, to someone who doesn't look how you would expect someone who speaks English well looks, right? And a lot of times those remarks come from an innocent or even a friendly place, right? But they still say something about your preconceived notions of what kind of people should live in certain places. And with a lot of people, that's not malicious. That's just kind of the way they've been brought up. And it's worthwhile questioning those preconceptions for sure, without getting too defensive, right? No one's saying you're a bad person. If you just aren't aware sometimes of the preconceived notions that inform how you speak. But with this guy, it comes from a bad place. It's not an innocent remark, and it's specifically meant to hurt Kim. Because Kim, we've heard of Seoul before from the pawnshop owner. And Seoul is a place in this world which is a bit like either Korean or Japanese coded, right? I think more so Japanese even. Because Kim's name, Kim Kitsuragi, sounds more like a Japanese name, or then in this game a Seolite name to me. And I think at some point Kim tells us that it was either like one of his grandparents or one of his parents who is from Seoul, but they moved to Revachol like a long time ago, and Kim's been born here. He's a Revacholian citizen. He's a Revacholian through and through, right? So this guy telling him, welcome to Revachol, like he hasn't spent his entire life here and has the right to be here, is a very, in this case, like I'm not saying with other people it can't be more innocuous, even though it still warrants questioning even then. But in this case, it's a very conscious effort to hurt Kim. Right, so in this playthrough, I'm unfortunately going to have to do the really hard thing here, which is hurt Kim, since we're playing a racist, right? We're playing a fascist. And we're not saying, why are you dressing my partner like that? We're saying, hey, I know Revachol, that's where we are.
Don't you welcome to Revachol me. My grandfather came here from a 3,000-year-old racist isolationist culture, while your ancestors came to this island a mere 300 years ago.
And Kim, of course, immediately picks up on that, and he also picks up on the fact that it's meant as hurtful from this guy, right? It's not meant innocuously. Kim has probably had to endure comments like this his entire life, and he can tell the times where it happens innocuously, and sometimes a person just doesn't know better, and then maybe he'll let it slide, or he'll like empathetically inform them that he's actually been born here and he's just as Revacholian as them. But with this guy, he senses that there's more going on. And that's why I don't necessarily like that the game calls him racist lorry driver, because it takes that realization away from us, right? And it would have been a way cooler moment, I think, if Kim had just gone off here and we would have been in a position where we're like, okay, is this coming from a bad place with this guy, or was he just trying to be nice even though he was a little ignorant? Like, is what Kim's doing justified here? And if all that had played out in our head, that would have been better writing, I think. Especially since the game very rarely gives us unambiguous clues like this, like racist lorry driver, right? A lot of the times the game lets us do our like unempathetic, psychopathic shit without directly commenting on it. But it's still well written enough that if you pick up on like some little clues, like then you still feel shit, right? Like with Kuno or with Klasje. And here it just like hits you on the head with it. And I would have liked the subtlety more, because as it turns out, this guy is pretty racist. He just, you know, he hides behind that facade of, oh, I'm just trying to be nice or whatever. But in this case, he's actually a bad dude. And we can tease them out of him later, and that would have been nicer, I think. But I guess the game didn't want us to have any ambiguous feelings towards Kim here. So the game wants us to be unambiguously pro-Kim all the time, which I get to. It's kind of important for his character that he's a good dude. At least, you know, in most ways.
Every school of thought and government has failed in the city, but I love it nonetheless. It belongs to me as much as it belongs to you.
And I do like how this is written, right? Because Kim immediately, and it's probably not, as I said, the first time he's had to deal with this, it's about belonging, right? And he hits the nail on the head here, saying, it belongs to me as much as it belongs to you. I'm born here as much as you are. I've lived here, I've sacrificed lots of work and idealism for this place, just as much as you have, and you saying to me, welcome to Revachol, like I'm some kind of guest who is here by your grace, and you're nicely allowing me to be here, is ridiculous, right? Because this belongs to me as much as it belongs to you. I don't need your permission. And by saying welcome to Revachol, even like, he meant it like that. He's basically saying, yeah, the only reason you're allowed here is because I say so, and people like me say so. But you better watch yourself. And especially about that watch yourself angle, Kim will have a comment too. What's happening? You sound angry, Kim.
It's men like you who keep Revachol divided, making it that much harder for everyone to climb out of this post-war limbo.
What's going on here?
Oh, come on, man. I just said, welcome to Revachol. It's a lorry driver thing.
I know exactly what you meant. You think my kind doesn't belong here, that I should watch myself and behave.
Right?
But you see, I'm an officer of the RCM. It's actually my job to make sure you behave. I would advise you to remember that.
Silence. The air between them becomes tense. Your partner needs backup. Now's your moment to shine.
And that's actually a moment where the game, like, very expertly plays with our expectations of both Kim and the RCM, and what a police is supposed to be, and whether we're pro-police or not. And even if you're very much, like, anti-police generally, if you see Kim here as an officer of the RCM, using that authority to put someone in his place who accosted him racially, that almost kind of feels good, right? Even though, you know, as a leftist, as a socialist or anarchist or whatever, you shouldn't really feel good about a policeman using his authority, even if it's to put a racist in his place. But yeah, Kim's not a leftist, of course. Kim's a moralist. He's like a centrist, and he very much believes in the system. He believes in the role of police, and so he uses that here, right? And this is, of course, this is undermining Kim so bad. Well, I think we all learned something here while smiling and looking at the lorry man.
I haven't learned anything I didn't know before.
The lorry man shakes his head with indignation.
The lieutenant exhales and resumes his regular calmness.
Now that that's settled, we have a couple of questions.
Whatever you say, officers.
He waits impatiently, cigarette smoldering between his fingers. And this is actually interesting too, because if you are very much on Kim's sides and you basically tell this guy to fuck off, he's not cooperative, right? And I'm not saying you shouldn't tell him to fuck off, but I'm just saying this playthrough opens a different dialogue path for me that I haven't seen before. What was that argument all about?
It's about biological determinism, natural law, the sorting of the races.
And see, he spits on the ground. And now it's basically confirmed. Like, and so far we could have been like, okay, Kim was way too hard on him. Maybe he was just being like slightly ignorant but friendly. But now he actually says it himself. Yeah, he believes in the biological sorting of the races, even though, as we spoke about before in this playthrough, there's nothing biologically real about the concept of race, right? It's a human concept that has been invented by society in order to enforce arbitrary boundaries between groups of people and to have an excuse to exclude and exploit and often enslave certain groups of people, right? But there's no reality to it biologically at all. And remember how we also talked about how fascism always or often looks to nature for justifications of societal hierarchies, right? And obviously fascism believes in a hierarchy of the races too, which from a left-wing perspective is horrible from like two perspectives, right? The one is, and that's not even a left-wing perspective, that race is a construct. And the second one is that what a left-wing ideology or philosophy would say, even if it wasn't a construct, it's not a reason to stratify a society into people with more rights and less rights. Even if it was true, and it isn't even true. Because as I said, left-wing perspective would more so be, we want equal rights for all, no matter whether there are differences or not. And in this case, there aren't even any systematic differences. Right, and I also said, like, a lot of people who aren't like straight up fascists, either they don't want to admit it, or they are really not. They argue in a naturalist or essentialist kind of way, and that basically means the same thing. Essentially, essentialist means like looking for essential truths in nature. Like there's an essence to a certain gender or a race that can really be found in reality. And then justifying your philosophy starting from that. That's usually an essentialist point of view. Whereas, and there is some disagreement over this within leftist circles too, but a lot of leftist theory comes not from an essentialist philosophy, but from a relativist philosophy. And there's lots of classical Marxists who will very much disagree with this, but especially post-structuralism, which is and postmodernism, which are philosophies of the late 20th century, the second half of the 20th century, created in Europe, mostly France, as a reaction to the cruelties of the Second World War, mostly. Especially those strands of philosophy, which are continuations of Marxist thought, they're especially relativist or existentialist. And there's a couple of thinkers you might have heard of, which is Michel Foucault and Jean-Paul Sartre, Kierkegaard, I think he's pronounced in Denmark, a couple German thinkers too, who are very much in this post-structuralist or existentialist or relativist tradition. And I've just stated those facts so far, but what is it? Relativist view is, as opposed to the essentialist view, one that always seeks to question not only power accumulations or power structures in society, but supposed concepts of or supposed concepts or realities, like say concepts of race or gender, relativist philosophy would look at those and examine them for inconsistencies and always ask questions about how they can be founded in reality, if at all, right? And there's a technique called deconstruction in relativism, which goes about these concepts and tries to deconstruct them down to their basic elements and take them apart in a way and try to find out whether there's any reality to them or whether they just exist because society came up with them, and then there was some power apparatus that enforced them, and they became real in a way that way, but they don't have any founding in nature or anything like that. Race is one of those concepts that has been like, if you approach it with a relativist framework, what you will say is, does this have any basis in reality? And if it doesn't, why is it so prevalent? Well, because there are certain power dynamics in society that profit from this concept being as widespread as it is, right? And relativists disagree on how far to go over certain things. Some relativists say it's just morals that can be taken apart like this, and basic concepts of reality aren't within our purview of relativism. But then there's like radical relativists or constructivists who say everything about our perception of reality is the result of social influences and social conditioning, right? So even what we perceive as very fixed categories in language, like chair or tree or whatever, they're entirely, at the end of the day, they're entirely made-up concepts, and their boundaries may change and shift even if you're using another language to try and describe them. But that's radical relativism. Like, a more moderate version of it is more so looking to deconstruct morality and concepts that shape our politics and thinking, and question them as to their founding in reality or their founding in power structures in society, really. Why did I talk about relativism now? Oh, right, yeah, as the opposite of biological determinism or naturalism or essentialism, there is relativism, constructivism, existentialism. Existentialism is a specific form of relativism when it comes to morality specifically. Existentialism is a strand that says, because there's several things that can follow from relativism and from deconstruction, right? And I said it's a movement that's the strongest in the second half of the 20th century in Europe, but it started even earlier. Of course, as its foundations, as the foundations of like philosophical trends always do. One strand of influence was nihilism, which is a 19th century thing mostly. Very prominent proponent of nihilism was Nietzsche, and who was coincidentally a very misunderstood and misapplied philosopher. The Nazis tried to make him their own as well, with this concept of the Übermensch, when in reality his whole concept of nihilism didn't really work with fascist ideology. Let's just put it that way. But they tried to like appropriate it nonetheless. But nihilism is basically the idea that if you're completely relativist about everything and you deconstruct everything, you deconstruct morality, you deconstruct meaning, you deconstruct every deity, you deconstruct God and society, at the end what you end up with is nothing, right? If you come to the conclusion that like everything's been created by society, and nothing has any foundation in reality or nature, then nothing has meaning, right? There is no morality. There is no meaning. there is no higher purpose in life. There's just material reality, basically. And if you're like a radical nihilist, you can even start to question material reality and say, well, at the end of the day, we can't really be sure of that. I mean, we only have our senses to guide us, right? And those are a very incomplete view of what we assume is out there. And that's Nietzsche. And then there's existentialism, especially after the Second World War, who kind of tries to build on nihilism or develop from nihilism the idea that no, deconstructing everything doesn't mean that you end with nothing and that nothing has meaning. It just means that you can build your own. You can build your own both meaning, you can build your own morals, and that's a very, like, in a way, liberating and democratic thought, right? Because if you question every form of authority there is, if you question all the morals that have ever existed, and if you question all meaning that people told you that life has or is supposed to have, right? Then you don't need to end at a point where you say, well, then nothing has meaning. You can end at a point where, or you can start with a point where you're like, okay, if there's nothing like objective that's kind of guiding me a certain way, if there isn't any objective rules on how I should behave, doesn't that mean I can just make up my own and be completely free in that regard? And that's a very, like, it can be a daunting idea, but it's also a very liberating and democratic and also individualist idea, which is again at odds with some leftist philosophy. But yeah, this is getting a bit complicated now, and it's definitely a simplification to say that all left-wing theory relies on relativism. There are some classical Marxists, as I said, who would very much disagree with that and say, no, we're like quite the contrary. We are looking at the material conditions we find ourselves in and derive our philosophy from that, right? And the material conditions we find ourselves in, and that's what classical Marxists would say, as we spoke about in one of the earlier episodes, is we have this economic reality called capitalism at the moment, where there's capitalists and workers, and they're in a class antagonist relation, right? And some classical Marxists would therefore very much disagree with the idea that you can deconstruct all of reality and all of human relations down to nothing. Basically, they say no. We're doing a materialist analysis here. So, yeah. Another thing that can follow from existentialism and philosophies like that is that they go much more so in a individualist direction than classical Marxism does, which goes more into a collectivist direction philosophically, right? Which is also one of the reasons, of course, they've been popular in France and in other Western countries, that is existentialism, because it's almost kind of a way of like marrying more classical socialist thought with other traditionally Western philosophical concepts. And I'm not saying that individualism or collectivism is always a thing of, like, individualism is always found in the Western hemisphere and collectivism always like in the Far East or whatever. But when it comes to philosophical tendencies, there is philosophical traditions, there is tendencies, of course, right? I mean, there's also much more individualist tendencies in Chinese culture, for example, with Taoism, as opposed to Confucianism, right? Which is the more collectivist philosophy. But this is getting too far. Yeah. So we were talking to this racist lorry driver. It's about biological determinism. So definitely what he's doing. And one final thing I'll say about this divide is that there is some disagreement between left and leftist philosophies whether relativism is good, basically. But there is little disagreement in right-wing philosophies that essentialism is good, and that looking to nature for justifications of the hierarchies you want in a society, that's very much prevalent in almost all right-wing extremist thought, right? So what he's doing is like a very typical thing, yeah. Looking to nature to look for justifications of his classifications, classification of races, right?
Not the most popular topic nowadays, with a coalition in charge and all. You might want to change the topic. That is, bury your head under the sand like common sheep.
Sheeple. Right, so he's anti-coalition, of course, because the coalition is moralist, which is politically centrist. He's obviously anti-left-wing too, but they're not the ones who have power in this system.
Change the topic. The way he says it makes it almost sound like a threat.
I get it. Someone has to be the unpopular guy.
I'm not the only one. Look, I've read books. The science of racial theory has all been proved, even if some people don't want to accept it. People who've studied these things say that you and me are superior by design. So, naturally, we Occidentals should be in charge. Obviously, you can see the merits in that.
And yeah, see, that's exactly what we were talking about earlier. It's exactly what he's doing, is looking to nature naturally, superior by design. He's looking to nature for quote-unquote facts to justify his stratification of society, to justify power imbalances, right? We should be in charge because of that. And this might be like a bit of a simplified version of fascist thought, but it is from a left-wing point of view. The developers are pretty left-wing, and also this guy is not the most sophisticated of his kind, right? There's much more equally repugnant but smarter people who argue this stuff too, right? And we're gonna meet one later as well, although he's probably smarter, but he doesn't make a lot more sense than he does here. And that's Measurat, of course. Yes, I can really tell you're a prime example of superior design. That's antagonizing him though, right? Okay, what else have you thought up?
So, lately we Occidentals have experienced an unfortunate downturn when members of the superior race cease to believe in their innate superiority. They stop competing for resources.
Okay, and?
This concerns you, policeman, so you better be vigilant. The damned kips are showing up good lately. Same with the mosquitoes. And the other intruder species too.
Intruder
They're on the
species.
precipice of cultural victory.
And this is so well written, right? Because it's supremely well written even. Because this is very, very true to reality. And I don't know if you've ever been in situations like this with people, with different people who you suspected might lean somewhat towards like a racist attitude, and where you've taken differing approaches, right? And when you're like very, when you confront them very early on, and we could have done that in this talk, and in my other playthrough I have, and we're basically saying, oh, stop with your, like, welcome to Revachol, fuck off, basically. Then he's like, he stops the topic, and he doesn't keep talking about it at all. But if you, like, stay neutral, or if you even encourage him a little, then he'll show his real opinion more and more, right? And because we've encouraged him a little bit, he's very fast to like use the worst derogatory terms, when in the end he was just like, yeah, my welcome to Revachol, that's just a friendly lorry driver thing, right? And it could have stayed at that. We could have not learned more about him. But here we do, and obviously we realize what Kim's intuition has been correctly so from the beginning, that this guy is a raging racist. But, you know, at the beginning it's like little remarks here and there. He's just like testing the waters to see how far he can go. And with us, obviously, he's realizing he can go pretty far. Even with my colleague standing right next to me. And the kips, I think, is supposed to be a racial slur for people of a Zeolite background. And the mosquitoes is probably a racial slur for people of a Hispanic or in our real world, like an African background of some degree. And intruder species, I mean, that's just straight up Nazi talk, right? He throws a sharp glance at Lieutenant Kitsuragi. They're on the precipice of cultural victory. That's also another concept that you probably will hear a lot of from, like, even conservatives. It's like, conservatives nowadays, they don't make it so much about species or races or whatever, right? Because racism is, thank God, become pretty taboo. But what people will do a lot of the time to dog whistle their racism, to not openly embrace it, but to kind of allude to it to everyone in the know, is speak of culture instead of race. And cultural victory, and specifically the fear of the cultural victory of the other, is very prevalent in right-wing thought too. And I'm sure you're aware of this. What's this cultural victory?
It's what the kips of Boogie Street are going for, right under our noses. And the others too, on the radio. Heard any chansons lately? Heard any motetos or leader? No. Dominating culture is how they plan to win. They say so themselves.
And this is, I mean, obviously, he's even more racist than typical conservatives nowadays, because he straight up believes in biological determinism and race science, right? Well, some conservatives nowadays believe in that too, unfortunately, but he also goes in for the more moderate conservative talking points, which is that cultural Marxists, and he doesn't say that here, but you can almost hear Ben Shapiro talking here, right? Or Jordan Peterson. Cultural Marxists are dominating all parts of culture, and they're basically inviting these people in, these people of other cultures, ruining our good, you know, chansons, French, or in this case, Ravacholian. Motetos, I don't know if that's supposed to be Italian or Spanish. Lieder is German, of course. You know, our white culture. Marxists are inviting people of color in. Not that they would call it people of color, but I'm calling it that. Inviting those in to ruin our white culture. That's what he's saying here. It's almost a bit too much antagonistic, right?
It's true. Also, you need to realize the dangers of mixing races.
Oh my god.
Who knows what might happen if people don't stay in their birthplace? You might end up with a new sub-race, with unknown characteristics, leading to extra competition. That's why you've got to control the offspring.
And that's very much... Now we're like back from the cultural racism, right? We're back to the straight up biological racism. And this is like, the further right you go, the more common this talking point becomes too, is that you can't have a mixing of the races, right? Or even in like the US and in many Western countries, up until the 60s, 70s, 80s, sometimes there were laws against intermarriage, right? And it was completely unacceptable in media and TV for people who extreme right-wingers would categorize into different races to even kiss or have relationships or anything. Incidentally, it was the original Star Trek with, with Kirk and Spock in the 60s that was the first time on TV that a black woman and a white man kissed. That's crazy, isn't it? That's super, super late, and it's kind of sad. And there was a big hubbub about that back then, with Kirk kissing Lieutenant Uhura, of course. It's like, you don't even need to go that far back to have like the most ragingly racist concepts just everywhere in society. And indeed, a lot of them still are everywhere. Yeah, I think I can get down with the racism. But what I wanted to say with this specifically, this mixing of races, is that the antagonism of like real biological racists against this, I mean, one of the reasons they're so antagonistic to it, not the complete reason, but one of the reasons is that obviously if that becomes very common, then it becomes very obvious that their categories are meaningless, right? What he's saying here, who knows what might happen? Well, we all know what happens. Like, you have normal children, which are, completely fine in every respect. But he's making it sound like, there might be some mutations or whatever. And what you end up with is the realization, if this happens, that those categories are completely arbitrary and mean nothing, right? That's why you've got to control it, yeah, because otherwise that whole system falls apart at some point.
Good. If we, the evening people, pull together, we can form a bulwark against these troubled times. Root out the forces that seek to undermine the well-being of our people.
Lieutenant Kitsuragi's stern expression remains unchanged, but you sense he can't be happy about this turn of events.
Root out the forces that undermine the well-being of our people. And, yeah, that's obviously like left-wingers, cultural Marxists in the right-wing's view, a lot of the times. But also, and this is very taboo nowadays, but it's still a staple in extreme right-wing thought, as it has always been, is raging anti-Semitism, of course, right? Where it's not only cultural Marxists and leftists, but also Jews who are responsible for undermining the well-being of our people. And that's not often said anymore, this explicitly, but it's so many times it's an undercurrent of what right-wing people are saying. When they're talking about like globalists or global elites, what they mean by that is Jews a lot of the time. And that's why any left-wing critique of the class system must always be a structural one, right? We're not attacking a certain kind of people. We're not saying capitalists are bad personally. We're saying it's a system that's bad, and it's this class antagonism that's bad. And in the end, we're not anti the people at the top, no matter who that is. If you like exchanged the lowliest and the poorest proletarian for the richest capitalist tomorrow, nothing would fundamentally change in the system, right? It's not the people who are bad, it's the system that's bad. And that's why left-wing critique of capitalism is never supposed to be personalized. We're not personally hating rich people, right? We're hating a system that creates that much wealth on the one hand and that much destitution and poverty and hunger and death on the other hand. There's a good guy, like a political YouTuber who unfortunately died last year. His name was Michael Brooks. Maybe you've heard of him if you're like into left-wing YouTube a little bit. Was an extremely like brilliant guy. It's very unfortunate that he passed away. He was like one of the really the smarter voices on the left, and he always had this one thing where he said that you should be empathetic with people, but be ruthless with structures. And I think this sums up my perspective on socialism so well. Is that's one of the main points, like in general philosophical outlook, where we differentiate ourselves from the far right and indeed any conservatism, right? Is that empathy with people must always be a top priority, and any criticism we have of unequal power dynamics and of a system that produces poverty and also absurd amounts of wealth must be a systemic critique and not a personalized critique. But yeah, the right wing does the opposite. The right wing looks to nature and says basically all hierarchies are justified, except for those where, the globalists manipulate society so that the other races can undermine us. It's a very like anti-humanist, nefarious philosophy from the get-go, I think.
Oh no, not too happy.
So Kim's not happy about what we're saying here. What are you hauling?
Oh, not much anymore. I'm here to pick up some cargo, but the dock workers are on strike, so it's a sit and wait on your ass situation. The strike? Oh, they've been at it for a while. A month, 2 months maybe. But this here is just the last week or so.
What kind of cargo are you supposed to pick up?
Apples.
Apples?
Yeah, apples. I take it you had other questions?
He's given you the runaround. Let's be honest, you were bested.
Ah, damn it. I would have liked to succeed here, but I guess our intellect isn't the highest, right?
I salute you, compatriot. Defenders of the evening lands have to stick together.
Sing.
Light up, brother. Ward off those jungle spirits.
One of those jungle spirits. Like, see how now he's like completely comfortable with us. He's just so casually racist. It's incredible.
Whoa, jackpot. Racist jackpot.
Yeah. So you even got some cigarettes out of it. See you around. Kim wants to talk. Okay, let's talk to Kim.
When you said before that you were down with racism, was it meant in earnest, or were you just trying to win his confidence?
Well, now you've done it. Let's see if you can talk your way out of this one.
I was practicing the time-honored technique known as the lie. Oof, this is such an asshole, nefarious answer. In Germany there's this horrible word for like raging racists and right-wingers that conservatives sometimes deploy, who don't want to endorse them, but they call them besorgte Bürger or concerned citizens. It's a thing in German, in English too. And they're like, yeah, they're just some people who have concerns, It doesn't mean we share them, but we should be listening to their concerns.
So you don't find his views, say, unbefitting of a police officer?
He's not a police officer. The lieutenant narrows his gaze. It's not about me. Oh, he's talking about me. As police officers, we gain nothing by staking out the moral high ground over him. Of course, but he's also not entirely responsible for them. I haven't been in this world for long. Already I'm a product of my environment. No, we'll say, maybe he's got a point.
And what point would that be?
Well, actually...
Stop right there. I know what you're going to say. Don't. Also, these attitudes are quite common in Martinez, so I expect this to happen again and again.
Oh man, Kim, I'm
I've
so
had this
sorry.
conversation enough times in my life. From now on, I'm going to stay out of it. How you choose to respond is your business. Now, let's get back to the task at hand.
Oh man, Kim, I'm so sorry. This is very hard. But gotta stick to the playthrough. Alright. That was an interesting talk. This is a good place to end it once more. See, we haven't done anything so far concerning our case, except, like, you know, chat to a couple of people, buy a raincoat, collect a bit of tear, and talk about politics a lot. I hope you're enjoying this. I know I am. Thinking about a lot of the dialogue this deeply actually makes me appreciate this game ever more. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.